All right, we are live with another episode. And on today's episode, I interview a rope flow mind and body optimization coach with a diverse and deep background in science, movement mechanics, and philosophy. He's an 7-time Audit Academy specialist, co founder of Elevate Movement, and co founder of Adventure Retreat. He's also a group instructor of multiple modalities, including animal flow, kettlebells, steel mace, rope flow, strength and conditioning, with over a decade of coaching experience. Welcome to the Winner Circle, AJ Londo.
What's going on, man? Thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you. And the goal of these conversations are really to uplift, inspire, and empower everyone tuning in just to move forward with greater faith and belief in themselves on their hero's journey ahead. And you've lived quite an epic hero's journey to this day, to this now, and I'm excited to delve into that with you. The first question I ask every guest really sets the tone of this interview, and it's like a really positive vibe that I'm going for. So the question is, what do you love about your world right now, AJ? Not the external world, but your personal world. What do you love about your personal world right now?
Right now, in this present moment,
Yeah.
what I love and appreciate right now in this present moment is that it seems that all of the different projects and spaces that I've put my energy and passion towards, although varied and vast, are starting to come together, and it's a beautiful synergistic thing. So I'm being able to slowly manifest the life I have dreamt about living for a very long time. And I've been able to slowly optimize my day, my workflow, and my own personal practice, which I appreciate very much. It allows me to feel good all the time.
Sounds lovely. The next question I ask every guest pertains to your mission, and that's not like your mission in your work, but it's in everything you do. So it's your mission in your coaching, as a partner, as a friend, as a human on this earth. What would you say your overarching mission is that guides you in all that you do?
I love this question so much. I really love your show, man. These are great questions. My mission is to elevate humanity, to elevate how we breathe, how we move, how we feel, to elevate the awareness and the importance of community and environment. So that's what I truly try to drive in everything I do.
Thanks for sharing that. Um, the next question pertains to the title of this show. And so the title of the show is Welcome to the Winner Circle. And to me, a winner means someone who's embraced faith over fear and is enjoying the process rather than being destination orientated. We live in a very destination orientated world. Like when I get this job, when I get this career, when I get this relationship, when I get this car, when I get this, et cetera, I'll be happy. We get there and it's maybe a momentary blip of excitement and it's, oh, now what? So for me, being a winner is just embracing the present moment, enjoying the infinite now, doing my best, showing up. What does winning mean to you? And what does winning look like in your life for you today? What does your day of a winner look like?
Yeah, again, incredible question. I love the way that you view it and the way that you word it is so beautiful, and it's part of your branding and ethos. And for me, Elevate is the framework, the operating system underlying how we do everything, which is one of the sayings in our manual, is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And for us, Elevate is a 4-phase process. The T phase of ELVT is tune. And when you're tuned in, you're in the present moment and you are the highest, most elevated version of yourself. So for me, I'm constantly in that 4-phase process of Elevate. I'm exploring whatever task is at hand, wherever my focus is in. And I am mindful of my mind currency and where my energy and focus is, so I can optimize my likelihood to be successful at whatever it is I'm doing, even if it's a conversation, if it's a training session, if it's an activity in our retreat. To us, we're able to see everything as elevate. And if we're an elevated version of ourselves, then we are in the present moment, really focusing on the task at hand and living that optimized life, which is how you and I connected in the first place, was through On It, which for me was the pattern disrupt in my life. Meeting the coaches, Shane and John at On It, it was a pattern disrupt because I couldn't apply these lessons for myself until something like the education system that they presented really forced me to apply these things to myself before I can teach them and reach that final pillar of On It, which was give to empower. So elevate is basically the breadcrumbs that I put down along my personal movement journey and life's journey, and realizing that it is a hero's journey, like you say. And elevate is our systematic approach to teach people who have just woken up with whatever pattern disrupt is going on in their life, to like a guidebook. You play a video game, you wake up in the video game, and the first thing you experience is the tutorial mode. But there is no tutorial mode for life. And we feel like that's our opportunity here with what I've learned from going from a human in sedentary lifestyle who was on autopilot. All of a sudden, I learned all these tools and practices to be able to connect with myself, with how I breathe, how I move, how I feel, and how those are all connected, and how I can elevate those three for myself. And then I can give to empower to others. As a coach, I was already trying to give to empower before I had it for myself. And again, elevate is just the simple approach of how I did it from square one. And our goal is to just share that with as many people as possible, because when you're in the moment, when you're lost in the task at hand, that's what we've been talking about for so long in philosophy and religion and science and martial arts and anime. The Taoists called it, no mind, or Wu Wei. That's what Miyamoto Musashi called it. In the zone is what we call it in sports. Goku in Dragon Ball is ultra instinct, where it's just effortless action. We've talked about this across human history in so many different things. Like it's this mystical thing that isn't real, but it's very real. We all know it. And we found a beautiful way to get there ourselves, using movement as a tool to get there. And then you're able to use that system to find that space in everything you do, which is really a way to live a meaningful and present life.
Mm-hmm. And how are you currently sharing these learnings that you've picked up along the path, and spreading this elevate philosophy?
So because to me, elevate is an operating system, it's something that underlies almost everything that we do. So one-on-one training is my specialty that I've been doing since 2009. So that's really become my lab and my way to be able to figure out how we can teach these things and pass them on to other people. And we were also able to, this is something that really connected us when we met in person, was the kids program that Georgie and I did before the pandemic, Movement Matters. That was Elevate, but introduced to kids between 6 and 14 years old, over 1,000 kids from 25 countries. So some kids didn't even speak English, and we had to figure out how to teach these lessons with physical mimicry and with the body and with movement games. So the working with kids in a summer camp was another vehicle to teach Elevate. the retreat, adventure retreat, is a 6-day immersion in the Dominican Republic, where people are experiencing elevating how they breathe, how they move, how they feel, their experience of community and the environment they're in. They're elevating all those 5 elements for 6 days in the jungle, completely separated from the environment that they're in day to day, every single day. So the last few years of our career, my partner Georgie and I, has really been trial and error, figuring out how to share Elevate for what it is. And right now we're getting an incredible amount of traction and evolution and growth. We're developing a manual, a book that's coming out with the basic systems and lessons of what Elevate could be for anybody who chooses to pick it up. And the great thing about it is you can experience it simply with a breath exercise. That's the first way to prove that the system works. Like a scientist, you have a hypothesis and you have to prove your hypothesis with an experiment. And at the end of that experiment, you come to a conclusion. Is this valuable or not? So Elevate is so simple, you can prove it with breathing. And then after it works for breathing, we show you how to prove it in movement. And then once you keep compounding these lessons of elevating how you move, elevating how you breathe, you start to feel much better, and you start to create a much higher awareness of your body and space, spatial awareness, your interoception, your awareness of self, how you're breathing, your heart rate. Are you stressed? Are you feeling relaxed? Where's your posture in space? All of these things start becoming intuitively part of your day-to-day. If you're able to teach someone that their body is a vehicle that they're stuck with for life, and your car in the driveway has a fancy dashboard that tells you the gas, how much gas is in the tank, the oil temperature, your speedometer, your odometer. Unfortunately, our bodies don't have that. So for us, if we use the simple framework of Elevate to create that for yourself with a body scan, taking a breath and noticing how your head and neck feels, your shoulders, your joints, each joint, inch by inch, breathing and connecting with yourself, then you're proving that Elevate works, and you're more likely to use it in conversation like we are right now. We explored the introduction of our conversation, which is E, the first phase of Elevate. Now we're in load phase, L, where we're loading deeper into the concepts. And for the most part, in an Elevate session, you spend the majority of your time loading. Explore is your foundational principle, and load is deepening in the layers, adding complexity, trying to understand how deep this concept goes, how far you can expand your bubble, your perimeter, your preconceived notions is like a bubble around you. And every time you load, you're seeing if you can expand your horizons, you can deepen that threshold, which is things we've learned along our way. And it's a way for us to teach this to other people. So long answer, but the short answer is we're finding that Elevate is something that we can express in so many different products and ways, because it's a simple framework that just gives you a higher intention and way to experience reality. It helps you literally elevate your perception of reality.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a moment, AJ, to celebrate some of your biggest wins to date, some accomplishments you're most proud of, so that we get to know a bit more of your story. And then we'll explore the origins to this afterwards.
Okay, yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is the retreat. For listeners of your podcast, Shane Hines was recently on, and he got to talk a little bit about Adventure Retreat in El Valle. And I'm extremely proud of what that is becoming and evolving into, and how many people that's been able to impact. We brought over 100 people into the jungle to experience Elevate, and with each other in community in an incredible natural environment. And we had no idea that that was going to be a thing. When that first started, it was really a conversation that started at a party, and to see what it's become and how much it's impacted my life and how I see it continuing to impact the lives of people who come with us. I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish there. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. It means a lot to us what we're doing there.
Hmm. Um, we'll get into that. We'll get into more details about that retreat in a bit. What are
Okay.
some other accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Another one I would say would be the community we've been able to build with the Rope Flow Academy. So that's one of our online education programs where skill development is a big part of Elevate because it's a system that you can use for anything. We love proving it in teaching people new skills like kettlebells, steel mace, suspension training, but ground-based movement and rope flow is something I found. It's one of the newer things I found in my personal practice right before COVID, and because because I had the time to really dive into it, it impacted my life. I learned a lot of lessons, and to this day, every time I pick up the rope, I learn something new, and I started realizing almost immediately how similar it was to these martial art practices. My background and origin is martial arts, and it felt like nunchucks. It felt like, bow staff. It felt like these other movements. It was so familiar, yet it was a new thing that I started understanding it in the lens of martial arts. And then fast forward to meeting Vitor Belfort and having the opportunity to train him for a few hours with rope flow. He looked at me and was like, "Oh, this is a martial art." And I was like, "Yes, man, that's what I've been thinking for the last couple of years." And it set me off to create the Rope Flow Academy, which is teaching rope flow as a skill, but in the lens of martial arts. Like the rope is a weapon, but I also teach it like the rope is a paintbrush that's teaching your energetic intent. It's giving you a higher awareness of your energy, which at the end of the day, that's what elevate the true benefit of elevate is the system. It allows you to create a relationship with energy, and most of the time we're not connected to how we feel. We just know I feel bad or I don't feel bad. But with this system, you're able to actually know how you're feeling in time and space, and at least give you a good reason to think why maybe something is feeling the way that you is not optimal. One of our lessons in Elevate is awareness without judgment. So if you're doing a body scan and you're moving your shoulders around and you notice that something's going on, maybe you slept funny. And there's no reason to attach judgment to that, because then that wouldn't allow us to look down the path of the patterns that will help us figure out the source of some kind of issue. So going back to Rope Flow Academy, teaching it in the lens of martial arts, we created this online program and built a community of over 200 people from all over the world that are able to learn rope flow in the lens of martial arts. And it's not so much about the rope, it's the lessons of your weight distribution and finding that flow state with this tool. And you can do that with any tool, which is incredible. And Elevate allows you to do that in a super simple way. So really proud of that community. It's growing every day and they are awesome. So shout out to Samble and shout out to our community Rope Flow Academy on the Samble program.
Amazing. Let's hit rewind and let's trace things back to the origin of all this. And you can go back as far as you wish. Maybe it starts with your journey in martial arts. I don't know, wherever you want to start that led you to coaching, that led you to the Onnit Academy, that led you to this operating system Elevate, that led you to the Rope Flow Academy, that led you to Adventure Retreat. Let's rewind and let's see how you got here. Because
Yeah.
so often people see people like yourself achieving all these amazing things, and they say, well, like, okay, well, how do I get there? And it's when we explore the story of these people that have achieved the success that we recognize, oh, they started just like me. And it's about embracing the process one step at a time. And then you're there. We've always been there, and we're just allowing it to unfold. So let's trace things back. How did you get into all this? How did your journey into coaching begin?
Yeah, I'm gonna go way back because
Yeah.
it's funny. Shane Hines asked me this on a podcast, and I started my answer at like the age of 27 because I really had a rebirth at that age. But with you, I'm gonna start all the way back, so
Great.
people get the answer from the beginning, the proper answer.
Great.
I I am the product of what I believe is a huge issue happening right now worldwide. I
Uh-huh.
believe sedentary lifestyle is creating massive damage to us in so many different ways. And I am a product of that crisis. I was a sedentary kid playing video games 6 hours a day. I was a great student. I was raised upper middle class, so I was spoiled. I was allowed to be in my room all the time. I had all the video game consoles. I read comic books. I watched anime. I was a super nerd. My mom is a doctor, wanted me to be a doctor. I was the smart kid, one of four kids, and it was a path laid out in front of me, and because of that, I just walked down that path happily, playing video games, doing all the things, very sedentary. I also loved sports, and I loved wrestling because I was a fan of anime. I was a fan of Power Rangers. I wanted to be a ninja my whole life. But my background in martial arts really started from anime, from comic books, from finding out about Miyamoto Musashi and like Lao Tzu, the art of war, all these things. I started diving into all this stuff. And I did sports growing up, mainly because my family forced me because I was extremely sedentary, but also because I felt the connection to the stuff that I was a fan of. And I was very injury prone because of my sedentary lifestyle. My feet were not connected to the ground. I was wearing shoes all the time. My posture was terrible because I was always in these very relaxed, disconnected positions, not knowing why I didn't feel good. I was disconnected from myself. I was always injury prone, but wrestling made me aware of jujitsu. I started playing with jujitsu, which made me aware of the UFC, made me aware of Joe Rogan. I became a super fan. I started going into these martial arts gyms in South Florida. And as I was in college, thinking I was going to medical school, still a sedentary kid, I was very smart. So not only did I do good in school, I did well in sports too, even though my body, for the most part, I like to tell people at this time in my life, my body was a puppet that the puppeteer was asleep at the wheel. And my posture wasn't proper. My muscles weren't firing proper to create proper movement patterns to be an elite athlete. I had a lot of deficits that I was not aware of because of sedentary lifestyle, because I spent all my mind currency on playing video games, reading books, watching TV, doing all the other things except creating connections with my body physically, mentally, or in any kind of way. So fast forward to becoming a fan of Joe Rogan. I was in school in lab, and I was in lab with actually a UFC fighter. And he told me about a local gym and was like, dude, you should come check it out. I started going there a little bit, and very quickly I realized I didn't want to spar. I wasn't a fan of that. Also, because at the same time I was practicing to get into med school, thought losing brain cells is not good timing right now. So I decided to get into the strength and conditioning stuff and fell in love with it. It allowed me to hang out with people I looked up to and in a safe environment. And it became a community that I looked up to these guys. I looked at them the same way I looked at heroes and animes and comic books and things like that. I was MMA has always been, I first started watching it in the early 2000s and has always meant so much to me. So seeing these people in person, and this is like in 2008, 2009, blew my mind. Starting to train with them, I got obsessed. I did every class I could do just to hang out with these guys. Became best friends with one of the coaches. He gave me the opportunity to co-coach because I was there all the time. I got in great shape because all I wanted to do was hang out with these people. So all I did was hang out with them and work out. And from there, there was the first pattern disrupt where I'm talking to people I look up to who are living their life's purpose. Shout out to Edson Barbosa, top 10 lightweight. He'll be in the Hall of Fame when he retires. Yeah, I see this guy recently come from Brazil to South Florida. He gets an opportunity to live his life's purpose. Money is not in his mind. It's simply for the love of the sport. And when we had deep conversation after practices and stuff, he made me see, he's like, how much money do you think you need? Like, why are you following this path? And he made me realize that there were coaches in this place that were doing well with doing what they loved. And he's like, dude, you're spending a lot of time here. You love being here. Look at how many people are doing good here. You know, like, are you sure you're following your life's path? So that made me really reassess. I already took the MCAT. I started applying to medical schools. My family were smitten because they thought, you know, I'm going to be the one child that goes to medical school. And following these conversations, I started having them more and more with more people in my life that I looked up to. And it just showed me that I can be in the health realm in a more preventative way, in a different path that I just have to forge myself, as opposed to this very simple path that got laid out to me that I was walking down completely autopilot because I wanted to play video games and read all these animes and do all these things. So decide to get certified as a trainer. The MMA gym I was going to unfortunately closed. There was a bunch of drama. There's usually drama in these worlds. And I happened to find this gym that would do large group boot camp style classes. And it was very similar to what I was doing in this mixed martial arts gym. So it allowed me to develop my one-on-one training skills as a certified personal trainer, now after college and not going to medical school. And also, it gave me that feeling, that community, the large group classes. We got to run these huge classes of 30 to 50 people every day. And it felt like the same community I got in the MMA gym. And I got to develop that aspect of my coaching skills or career, which is really one of my big passions, is community and cultivating that community and leading it, because it's a skill that I've been developing since all the way back then, since like 2009, 2010. So as now my career moved into more fitness, less mixed martial arts, I became a huge fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. They started doing the sponsorships with Fleshlight. Then that created the connection with Aubrey and Joe, where On It was born, the supplements, and then they started talking about fitness stuff on the podcast. And again, I'm a nerd. I still to this day, I've listened to every single Joe Rogan podcast since all the way back then. And they were talking about this training. I started looking up On It, and the gym I was at was offering money for supplemental education, which, as I've been saying, that was my forte. I've always been a pretty good nerd. Looking into reading things, watching videos, breaking things down has always been a big passion of mine. I spent most of my time sedentary doing that. So I was always good at that. So when the opportunity arose to travel to Austin to go to On It, I thought, as a Joe Rogan fan, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. My training, my gym is helping me fly out. I thought maybe I'll meet Joe Rogan, like I was like, this is going to be great. And when I went there, I was surrounded by, again, just like the gym in South Florida, people I looked up to, Hall of Famers from the UFC, Olympic athletes, WWE entertainers. And it blew my mind. My inner voice started saying, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? I felt like I didn't belong immediately because I was there more so as like a fan than the hero on their own journey, walking their own path. I was definitely there more as like a spectator. And that whole weekend was another pattern disrupt that showed me that. And I was receiving all this new information, but I just had these deficits that didn't allow me to apply the lessons to myself. And I went home, and usually what happens with people when they find something that blows their minds and changes their life is they immediately want to share it with everyone. And shout out to Shane Hines and John Wolf for both being absolutely incredible mentors that to this day I give so much credit to, for being both like father figures in my life that showed me that I was living life in that spectator mode as opposed to being the hero on my own journey, And it's not that they said that at any given point, but they allowed me to see that along my own path, which was one of the biggest pattern disrupts. Again, my third one was the first training showed me that I had a lot of work to do on myself. I got obsessed. I came back to On It. I did every single training that was open for it multiple times. I got certified in all their things. And then everything, John would drop a golden nugget and say, hey, if you like that, take this course with this person. Animal Flow with Mike Fitch. Boom, done. Immediately got certified. TRX suspension training. Boom, went and got certified. At FRC with Dr. Andre Ospina. Boom. Immediately when I started learning about functional movement systems, all these things, the functional movement space was a world that I didn't really know existed, just being a outdoor boot camp trainer. And when the education blew my mind, it made me realize a lot of the lessons that I was learning that was blowing my mind was me applying the things that I've learned growing up in comic books and superhero stories, in the samurai stories, in the animes, and playing the video games. It is very much so what your show embodies is taking ownership of your role in the movie and the video game and whatever this is in life, like taking that ownership of that role. On It, Shane Hines, John Wolf, they were the pattern disrupt that allowed me to wake up, unplug from the matrix. There's so many analogies, right? Like that allowed me to see that. And then my journey of the new me really began. Like in 2014, when I first got certified from On It, it made me realize that there's so much work to be done within myself. And then from there to now, almost 10 years later, it's been a process of always being the student, always being the white belt. How can I learn from every single situation? How can I be in the moment every single time? What nugget of knowledge can I grasp from that? And how do I give to empower? And so from 2014 up until now, that's where we're at.
Yeah, let's take a pause there. I have a question regarding the spectator mode, the pattern disrupt. What were some of the characteristics you recognize in yourself as the spectator, and how did you transform out of the spectator into the hero shoes? For others that may be in the spectator mode now, how did you transition?
Yeah, there's a lot of analogies and ways to look at this. There's a great video by a YouTube channel called Veritasium that's called The Science of Thinking, and it breaks down your brain and the two hemispheres of the brain and this process of how you react to things. And you can look at it like your gun brain and your logic brain. And for the most part, when we're not connected to how we're breathing, how we're moving, and how we're feeling, you don't really understand why you feel the way you're feeling. And right now, in a massive society right now, like, people are searching for these distractions and these solutions externally, outside from them. And I was one of those people. I was addicted to video games. I was addicted to soda. I drank Coca-Cola all the time. I love the caffeine. It fueled up my video game sessions. And even as a coach, I had vices, and all of us have vices and all these things. And again, awareness without judgment. There's no judgment here. It's just that there's these things that we externally look for to solve these issues. And what I needed in my own personal journey was to figure out, number one, how do I feel? And then two, can I have the freedom to explore why I might feel that way? I'm not saying I'll get the answer, but I can create an awareness as to why I'm feeling this way and how can that improve me. So going back to gun brain, logic brain, the majority of people who aren't connected and have some practice like yoga or meditation or martial arts or sports, or they're not finding this zone, wu wei, no mind in some way, most people are walking around allowing gun brain to drive the car. So a pattern comes up or something happens, a stressor in our environment, and gun brain immediately reacts. It doesn't give you time to logically think through before reacting. And this is a system that biologically has been developed to compensate and save energy. It's like, hey, we don't need to expend energy on this. I have this adaptation that can respond to this stimulus, so I can maintain the majority of my energy. This is like going back to when we were foragers and when we were hunters and gatherers. Like, this is a part of us that was developed for our own good. But because we're living in such a day and age of luxury, it's been hijacked and it's being used for not good, like we don't know how to deal with the energy in our day and life. So long story short, my gun brain ran my life. And if you ever feel imposter syndrome or the inner demons or this inner voice, or however we all interpret it, this as a different way, there's a book called Turning Pro, Stephen Pressfield, right? Oh no, the one before that is the War of Art.
War?
War of Art. He talks about resistance, right? That's what he calls it, resistance. And that's a beautiful way to put it, because it can be anything. We can come up with any reason why we deserve that snack, or we deserve to do that bad thing, or we deserve to do some kind of thing that is not going to help us in the long run. And that's gun brain. That's gun brain that's instant gratification, gun brain, versus delayed gratification, which is logic brain, is taking a breath and giving yourself the moment to pick up this pattern and do something positive with it. So in Elevate, our first big pillar is awareness without judgment. And we teach that with breathing. We teach that with movement, with the body scan. If I notice, there's something going on, I'm not going to shame myself for why I feel this way, because immediately people go, oh, I am X, I am Y, I am Z. Now, this is another lesson with Elevate about sedentary lifestyle. If you don't physically move, then you're stuck physically, and emotionally, we may feel stuck as well. So when you say, I am sad, depressed, ashamed, afraid, you're saying I am this thing sounds pretty permanent to me, as opposed to looking at it as I am feeling this way is saying it is in this moment. And it is also hinting to I can move through this moment, because I can elevate how I breathe. I can elevate how I move, therefore elevate how I feel. However I'm feeling is not permanent. But sedentary lifestyle, for some reason, when we're physically stuck, our emotions become stuck. Our stresses become stuck. Bad posture and stiffness is from being sedentary. And that stuckness and starts physical, but we hold on to all kinds of stress. You know, the body holds the score or something like that. There's some quote. So those were things that I was dealing with, and I was starting to connect the dots with my movement practice. I started doing yoga around 2014. So back to this origin story. The first time I did durability, I believe that's when we met, back in like 2015, you know, like way back. I think that's when we met, durability. And my hands hurt the second day because we were on the ground the whole time, and I wasn't experienced being on the ground. And that's when I learned about animal flow. And I had the same experience at animal flow. The second day, I could barely be on my hands. All the wrist mobility and groundwork blew my mind. And when you think about sedentary lifestyle, everything has us pushing forward, right? You're pushing a shopping cart, you're typing, you're driving a car, everything has you here. How often do you have your hands in extension, let alone holding your body weight and creating that strength with your hand, your wrist, your forearms? We're not used to that. So the first time that my body was experiencing this as a 27-year-old, I was completely shocked. And I started doing yoga, and I started learning more about Ayurveda, and I started learning I had incredible teachers here in Florida. The yoga scene is great. And all of these stories I was listening to and learning more about yoga, I started realizing that it's pretty cool. Like Ayurveda is pretty badass. It's kind of like anime, you know, like the stories and the lessons and the philosophy. And it's so deep. I recently learned that even Kung Fu, which is something I grew up as a fan of Bruce Lee, the origins of Kung Fu go back to India as well. And just there's vast knowledge there that along my practice, what I started doing was I started seeing this universal thread, which thanks to Shane Hines and the pillars of Elevate, you know, unity and diversity, I started seeing this universal thread in philosophy of yoga, in all of the things I grew up learning as a sedentary kid. You know, this is a recent lesson that Shane gave me. I look down on that past before 27, you know, like I tell people, you know, my life didn't start till I was 27, but Shane really helped me realize in the adventure retreat, this last trip, that all of that knowledge that I accrued growing up until that point, and I spent all that time doing that, it gave me the ability to see the unifying thread that was underlying all those different things. And when it comes to like the orders of learning, when you can evaluate something you learn from one thing and connect it to another thing, this is something that Bruce Lee says too, is like, and Miyamoto Musashi, is when you get better at one thing, you see it in all ways. And the more you can find that thing in different skills, it allows you to compound skills and use the skills you already have to get better at things that you haven't even done yet. You know, like you already advanced and ahead of the game because you have such a wide arsenal to pull from, you know? So my inner demons was really gun brain. The reactiveness is where I spent the majority of my life, and awareness without judgment. I was a spoiled kid, so pretty much I cried and I yelled and I got what I wanted until I was an adult. And even when I was an adult in college and thinking I was going to medical school, everything was pretty easy and taken care of in college. Everything was easy for me, and I did it allowed gun brain to run the show for the whole time and allowed me to be reactive. And because of that, I was a sore loser. I played pool competitively, and although my skills were very high, my mental game was very weak because of these same issues. It was the inner demons. It was the imposter syndrome. It was not being prepared mentally and not applying the lessons physically. And the reason I didn't up until that point, the reason a lot of us are on autopilot and in this zone, it's not our fault. That's the thing, is like reactive brain wants us to immediately blame ourselves. Like my clients, I have clients from a vast range of ages, male, female, all different kinds of successful, that the audience that we're tapping into are people who have killed it in the financial world, have killed it in these other places, but they're in these offices 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, sitting in place. They're not connected to their body. They don't know why they're not happy, or they're not sleeping well, or they're not communicating well with their family or their partner. This a lot of mental health issues a lot of us are dealing with right now. It's coming from dissociation from self, how we breathe, how we move, how we feel, whether it be because we're in conventional shoe wear a lot and we're not grounded, feet to the ground, whether it be because we're in bad postures because we're sedentary, whatever reason it may be, it doesn't matter. For all of us, it takes something. Maybe this conversation can be the pattern disrupt for someone that allows them to realize, whoa, like I resonate with this. They're talking about me. And then the journey is start small, baby steps. And in our ELVT system, that's why we always start with the breath. Just take a moment to breathe in through the nostrils. Every exhale, like you're trying to blow out a candle, like a sigh of relief, make it gentle. It allows you to downregulate and really slow down, forget about everything else, and immediately you feel better. It only takes 4 to 6 breaths to really make a difference, to drop your cortisol levels, to slow down your heart rate, to allow you to just feel calm. And if you can elevate the way you feel with just a few breaths, imagine what you can do when you start incorporating some movement into your day. And then you start pulling yourself out of sedentary lifestyle. My whole life up until that point, 2014, I was in the fitness world. But now, with ELVT Movement, I look at fitness as this Band-Aid that we're trying to put on sedentary lifestyle. But sedentary lifestyle has come at a huge cost. So much so that even myself as a certified trainer, I wasn't ready to move in the ways that we were being taught in these trainings, because I was sedentary. I didn't have an awareness and connection to my toes and how they articulate, to where to shift my feet. And it started making sense. I started looking back at my past and I'm like, oh my God, like, of course I was injury prone playing soccer. Of course I pulled my shoulder out multiple times wrestling, like 3 years in a row. And it started making sense because I had no self-awareness of my posture, the little muscles that stabilize and have me be, which muscles fire and when, which are some of the things that I learned along the way. And so that constant journey allowed me to realize that I was doing something really impactful for myself, learning these things, but also that I had a duty, because sedentary lifestyle, the more every single day I'm looking around and this is a bigger and bigger problem that needs a bigger and bigger solution. And I really believe as an entrepreneur, ELVT can be that solution, because I was there. A lot of the people I deal with, I'm like, I was just like you, like I was just there. A few years ago, I had back pain. A few years ago, I couldn't touch the ground in a forward fold. A few years ago, I thought all these things, you want to blame all these external things. But then when you give someone open-mindedness, curiosity, and the tools to play in a safe environment, because you're creating awareness, it's truly empowering. And it was empowering for me. And I see it continually be empowering for clients in all the products, in one-on-one training, in small group classes. We've done the LA Fit Expo. Georgie and I traveled out to LA. We've done, like we said, the summer camp and the international retreat, and time again, we're seeing that when you elevate how you breathe, how you move, how you feel, adding community, and it's even more impactful. Each one is a dimension that exponentially expands the experience, but it starts with you, you know? And
Uh,
yeah, so that's how we got to, I hope that I answered your question. I
for
know.
sure. Yeah. No, that's great. And along this journey, fear has undoubtedly arisen for you. So you got all this education through Onnit, through Animal Flow, through FRC, through TRX, and then you started implementing it with your clients and your community and creating programs. Um, where along this path did fear arise? What did that look like? And how do you deal with it today when it still arises? Fear will
Yeah.
always rear its head.
Yeah, I would say fear is one emotion that came up as a reactive emotion. There's dozens of others of emotions that come up. Even like I said, playing competitively in pool, you think don't scratch, or don't do this, don't do this, and that thought, it's like slides you down this path of the thing you're trying not to do ends up happening, you know, which is the thoughts. There's a quote that the thoughts that consume us, or the thoughts that we consume us. And a lot, being able to, it's something that will happen in perpetuity. Thus is life. We have gun brain and logic brain actively working. And what my practice has become, my own personal practice, my life's purpose, is elevating and increasing my connection to self. So that in essence would be allowing gun brain and logic brain to work in a harmonized way. And to me, that's flow state, that's yin yang, that's wu wei. And yeah, that that is a human condition. Having those voices again has been something that was designed for us as a survival trait. So if we understand that, and awareness without judgment, if we can detach judgment, then we can hack into this system of gun brain and logic brain and become more efficient at using it for our disposal, for our good. And that is a constant practice that will always happen. You know, we are human, and whenever things happen, the stoic way to think about it is when the thing happens, know that you have the will to overcome, the training and all this and that. That's the stoic way of thinking about it. With Elevate, our idea is, why wait till when it happens? Make it now. Let's create a game. Let's explore. Let's load. Let's vanquish. And now you're tuned in. You've just used this present moment to elevate. So if we constantly elevate, then when that external thing does happen, where gun brain wants to set off, you've done the training, and you know that there's a silver lining here. There's everything is happening for us, not to us. It's paranoia, where you think everything is against you, versus pronoia, where you think everything is happening for you. So it's the ability to trust and have some faith in your own ability. And then the way to reinforce that faith and hope in yourself is to create challenges and games for you to overcome and prove that you are the elevated version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. So you've talked about different ways where you've increased your connection to self, movement, of course, breath. Another one that I feel is very unique to you, and you're a leader in the front, is rope flow. How did rope flow come into your reality, and how have you run with that?
So I first found rope flow in 2018, and I saw a few videos from David Weck, who is the founder, or he popularized the system. And when I saw these movements, again, there was a universal thread to martial arts. I had already been on my journey for about 4 years. I was pretty good at movement. I was pretty confident in my practice. Now it was 4 years of hard discipline work on my body, also doing yoga, also getting certified in these other companies. So like my body became my lab experiment, and I became the hero of my story, just constantly in the video game. It was the part with the montage with the music and the training. That was like 2014 to 2018. I found the rope, and there was the instructional videos from David Weck, and there was one particular move called the underhand sneak that my body just couldn't figure out. And it was so frustrating because, number one, I saw a bunch of videos of NFL players working at the Weck lab that could do it intuitively, even without the rope. And it frustrated me. And another lesson in Elevate is frustration and agitation lead to adaptation. So I knew that frustration of not doing that move, there was something there. There was a deficit that I had to overcome with my body. So I got addicted. With my relationship with Georgie, we have a rule. She cooks all the meals. I clean the kitchen. But for about 3 or 4 days, all I did was rope flow because I wanted to nail this move. And I just did it over and over. It took a week to get this movement down. And Georgie and I realized she's like, you got in like really good shape recently. And then I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. She's like, look at the kitchen. She's like, it's a mess. Like, oh, you've been moving your body with this rope nonstop. So that journey allowed me to start connecting the dots. Something that David Weck says is that the rope is the Rosetta Stone of all athletic movement. And what he means by that is that, rotational movement is inherently part of how we move our body, no matter what we're doing in space. And the rope is a beautiful paintbrush, painting your energetic intent. And the more efficient your body is at getting in those proper positions, the rope is moving fluidly around your body. So the way an overhand movement is in rope flow is how you throw a ball, is how you throw a punch. The underhand movement of rope flow is an uppercut movement. These rotational patterns are shifting your head over the grounded foot where your weight distribution is, and it allows you to move fluidly and efficiently in balance, which is what martial arts teaches. And as I started getting deeper into rope flow, my other movement practices started improving, which really blew my mind. My kettlebell practice got much better. Made no sense, like how a half-pound rope is helping me clean and snatch heavier kettlebells. It's allowing me to swing heavier steel maces. It's allowing me to realize patterns with the steel club, which the steel club, when I first bought them, I got a 20-pound one because I asked John Wolf, what weight should I get? He said, oh, get the 20s. So I got 2 20-pounds. They were so heavy, they lived in my garage for a few years doing nothing. I couldn't do anything with them. But then after doing rope flow for about 8 months, I could start fluidly throwing around this 20-pound club. And I was like, what's going on here? This rope flow is truly evolving the other aspects of my movement training. And it's not strength, it's not conditioning. And I believe this is something that will continue to become more popular, and we will hear this in more places moving forward. Hear me now, right? We're in 2023. We're talking about movement IQ, movement intelligence. This is something that will become a massive industry in the future, again, because of sedentary lifestyle. We train speed, we train strength, we train endurance, but movement intelligence is something that we need to train more and more and more. And that's something that the rope allowed to unlock in me. When the rope wasn't flowing the way it was supposed to be flowing, it's because either my hips weren't moving with the rest of my body, or my knees, something was stuck. Something was left behind. And rope flow is a full body movement system, creating energy from the ground up from your feet. So if your feet are disconnected, the flow will not look effortless. When it's effortless, it's when it's fluid from the ground all the way to the delivery to the rope. And that's why it looks true. Another David Weck quote, which is incredible, is if the rope is true, then so are you. You know, the rope is a paintbrush of your energetic intent. So if your body's in proper positioning, it just flows. And to this day, every time I pick up a rope, I learn something new, and it transfers over to other aspects of movement. As soon as I felt confident enough to understand the lessons behind the rope, I needed to share this, and it became a big part of my passion and life's practice. And the community that we've created there, shout out to Slush Ropes. She's an incredible human I met a few years ago through this practice. And when you think about it like an entrepreneur, jump rope is something that has world championships. It has athletes that are funded by their governments in Europe and Asia. It's a worldwide sport. And although rope flow is new, I'm very confident that it will be heading in that direction. So because it did so much for me, I would love to be a part of educating some of the next generation, because that will grow and explode. It's already become global, and it'll only get bigger from here.
Yeah, and you have the Elevate Rope Flow Academy on Instagram where people could find out more details. And I think you mentioned slush ropes. Is that the rope you'd recommend people to pick up to delve into this?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of great companies out there. The great thing about this community is because it's so new, the people who are part of the community are truly, it's by the community, for the community. We all love this practice. So Slush Ropes is an incredible distributor. She hand knots every single rope herself, sends it with love. She's based out in California. There's a company in Australia, Winding Ropes. They're amazing. Good Flow out in Italy is incredible. There are distributors in the Philippines. It's massive in the Philippines. So if you're in the Philippines, you're really lucky. You have multiple incredible companies distributing both education and ropes. The Netherlands is growing literally everywhere. This is a beautiful community that is so inviting. Another great thing about the rope is sometimes a steel tool, no matter what it is, even a dumbbell or a barbell, is pretty intimidating when we talk about fitness. A rope is so soft and pliable. It doesn't matter. We've taught 4-year-olds out in parks how to flow with the rope. It's incredible. They can't even really understand what we're saying, but they can mimic our body. And our body was intuitively designed to move in these patterns. So it's so accessible to so many that it's an incredible community to become part of. So shout out to Slush Ropes. Highly recommend her ropes. Weck Method is also based out in California. Their ropes are incredible too. Slush Ropes has awesome colors, glow in the dark, reflective colors. It's become a wide world, and it's continuing to grow every single day. So I highly recommend that you join the community.
Yeah, speaking of community, you've created an amazing community with Adventure Retreat where people have the opportunity to learn um, how to flow with the rope with you there amongst everything else. This started at a house party, a conversation at a house party. Let's pick it up from there, and
Yeah.
use this
So
as the last part of this origin story, because it's really where you are now. Adventure Retreat is what I feel you're most excited about.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, 100%. It was actually at a yacht party for our friend Naya's birthday, and Naya is from the Dominican Republic. She lived there growing up, and she's an incredible yogi. Nayita VP on Instagram. Check her out. Alo Yoga. She's amazing. And her friend, who she grew up with, happened to be at this party. His name is Angelino, and He's a party planner, a photographer, a business owner from the Dominican Republic. He had his cameras out and he saw Georgie and I. We were rope flowing. We were doing backflips off of the boat into the water. And he came over and he's like, you guys are, what is this? He had never seen the rope before. It blew his mind. And he gave us his camera to jump in the water with. And he's like, we need to go to, you need to bring this to the Dominican Republic. Like, people would love this. And Georgie and I, this was about 2021. And in 2019, when Georgie and I really co-founded ELVT with our partners, Joel, and we decided that this was our mission, was to elevate the world, how they breathe, move, and feel. And this is our way to give, to empower. And it really became a business. Georgie and I, as partners in relationship, both personal life and business, we made a vow to each other that we're not going to take any vacations and spend any money on something that it doesn't have to do with what we're trying to create here. So when this opportunity came up, we said, can we do a workshop maybe in Santo Domingo, which is the city? He owned a restaurant. And he's like, what if we did a retreat? And Georgie and I, when he first said that, we thought in the city, like, that would be weird. We didn't really have a good understanding of what the DR was. I had never been there. Georgie had been there on a cruise liner. So he told us, he's like, dude, there's this jungle, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, say no more. You lost me at jungle. I'm in. Let's do it. So about 4 months later, we got 20 people from all over the country to come to the Dominican Republic with us. And it was Georgie and myself teaching rope flow, kettlebells, and movement. And Angelino really did a lot of the itinerary. Being from there, he had connections in this location. Naya did the yoga portion, and she has a massive audience. So many people were interested in doing a yoga retreat with her. And we had an incredible, life-changing experience. Immediately when we were done, people were asking for more. People who came to the first one wanted to come back with us. So we set up a second one that sold out before the early bird special was done. So like 2 months before we even got there, it was sold out. So we created a third retreat. And from that third retreat, we first started in 2021. And up until now, we've done 5 retreats. We've brought over 100 people to the Dominican Republic for this experience. Each experience has been truly unique, truly powerful and impactful. And it is ELVT. We truly elevate as a community in this incredible natural environment. And people walk away immediately wanting others to experience it for themselves, because it's something you get to walk away empowered, and it's something you can share with others. So yeah, it started from a party. The idea was a workshop. It grew to a retreat. The first one just led to this domino effect. And from the last 2, our mentor, both you and I, John Wolf, has a new chapter in his life where he has time and space to create new ventures and projects. He came to our 4th retreat, and I believe he felt the magic very early on and understood that there was something truly special happening in this place, not only in our own lives and seeing us help wake up other people. This location, El Valle, it's going through a very similar experience, but as a land. It's a virgin land that got electricity in 2011. The villagers that live there, a lot of them are they're ancestors of people who have been living there for hundreds of years. It's truly a special place that they live connected with nature in a way that for us, from where we're from in America and other developed countries, it feels like sci-fi. So being able to incorporate that into the experience really exponentially grows your ability to connect with how you're breathing, how you're moving, and how you're feeling, because you're completely in nature, just immersed in nothing but yourself and the people around you. And luckily we've had some of the highest quality humans that I could think of. And I don't think it's really luck. I think the retreat and this location, El Valle, is like a magnet that's attracting individuals from all over the world who are feeling the calling of exactly what this conversation has been about.
Yeah, and excited to visit El Valle myself next spring. One of our mentors, Shane Hines, will be running a special retreat there, and I really hope to take part of it. That's the intention. Let's take a moment now to acknowledge some of the helpers and mentors that you've met along the path. You've mentioned a few already, but let's just take a moment to acknowledge, I don't know, a few of them, maybe three, four, who've really left an impact on you. Who were they? And what were the main takeaways you've learned from them that you've incorporated into your being?
I think that I have to start with my mom first. She's an anesthesiologist, an incredible hard worker. She was one of two females of her graduating class of medical school, came to America and started working in the field without even really knowing the language. And still to this day works part-time and has had a super successful career for decades. She really pushed me to be the best version of myself in what she thought was the path that I was supposed to be on. And now, as she sees what we're building here with all of these communities, I think she's starting to understand that everything I had learned up until this point, and going to school and getting this degree in biology and psychology, thinking I was going to medical school, is like, at first she didn't understand the reroute, the change of direction. But I think now she truly sees all of the inspiration I've been able to get from her hard work, her work ethic, and her grittiness, her stubbornness, her ability to see things through. This is a long journey, and we were talking about it before. How do you become a winner in your journey? It's a constant practice, and we're taught that, we're told that, but it doesn't really mean anything until you start experiencing it yourself. You start feeling it, and then it's the process of becoming comfortable with, how did I just get that feeling? How can I do that more often? And I was able to learn so much from my mom's work ethic. And along the way, for her, she overcame so many obstacles, but she ended up getting everything that she wanted and more. And it showed me that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So number one, definitely her. John Wolfe and Shane Hines, I can't stress enough the pair. I'll just put them together because their relationship has been together for over 15 years. And I learned so much from them over the decade of 2014 to now. But even on this last retreat, on our fifth retreat, they both came out. And I was lucky enough, Georgie and I were lucky enough to spend 7 days with them in the jungle. And I was able to learn more in those 7 days than the entire 10-year process of learning through their manuals, learning through their certifications over the weekends, and videos online. Seeing someone walk the walk and put the things into practice that they are teaching is a way different experience. And I truly believe I learned more from Shane and John in this last week at the retreat a couple months back than I did over that whole decade. And honestly, elevate the way I look at life, the way I look at everything I do, has been built upon so much inspiration from their teachings, as well as all the other educators in this space. Mike Fitch is an amazing educator. I still learn from stuff that he posts, and I was lucky enough to learn with him in person a few weekends. And the guy's incredible. He's a walking textbook. His own manual, he knows it page by page, verbatim, because he lives it. He walks the walk. So a lot of the mentors in this space when they know something so well that they can explain it in simple terms, it's super inspiring. So my mentors, John and Shane, but all the other ones as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I think that's a long enough answer.
Yeah, for sure. We've discussed so many of your wins and celebrations on this path. Let's take a moment to acknowledge some of the challenges, some of the errors. What would you say has been your biggest challenge on the path? How did you deal with it, and how did you overcome and learn from it?
The biggest challenge, I believe, is something that we're still overcoming. And it's that it's very hard to explain the benefit of being connected to how you breathe, move, and feel. With our current preconceived notions and stereotypes of what the fitness industry is, or if it's yoga, Pilates, obstacle course training, breath work, recovery, all of these segmented industries that are built for self-improvement, I believe, create segmented communities that think their way is the way, and that's amazing. But there's this unifying thread to community trying to improve themselves and therefore the world. And when we created our first event, Elevate Humanity, the whole goal of the event in 2020 was to bring humanity together. And unfortunately, our event was a week after the global shutdown happened. And in order to accommodate the fact that they didn't want to have indoor events, we ended up doing our event on a rooftop outside in sunlight. I found a study on the internet that said that sun kills COVID. It would be safe to run this event outside in sunlight. I gave it to the gym. I gave it to a bunch of people. We were able to run the event, and we were really lucky. It's like the stars aligned for us. We had over 50 people on this rooftop. And at first, people questioned, what is Elevate Humanity? Our event was, in the beginning, I forced everybody to introduce themselves. I got on the microphone. I said, I want everybody to meet someone else, tell them what you do, say what's up. Then we went through a body scan, breathing. There was a DJ playing music. We all started moving. They started squatting. They started doing some ground-based movement. They started connecting with the music, turning up the exercise, going through explore, load, vanquish, and tune. Then afterwards, we got individuals who are elevated in their practice and are entrepreneurs and doing their thing come up on stage to explain what they're doing in their life, their life's purpose. And at the end of it, I got back on the mic and I go, guys, how many people didn't know what this was? And almost everybody raised their hand. It was hard for people to come. The people who chose to come are courageous people, open-minded people. And I go, how many people feel good? Everybody raises their hand. And the explanation that I gave was, think about it. For thousands of years, humanity as community came together. When the sun comes up, when the sun goes down, they turn the fire on. They come around a fire. They tell stories. They come together. There's no real business around that. That's not fitness, right? But that is an opportunity to get around and dance and move your body and sweat and meet someone. But there's no industry around community, breathing together, getting on the same frequency. We do see it in some things. We see it in music, right? You go to concerts for this, to experience this, and it feels like you're being hypnotized by the crowd. Everybody's moving. So music is one vehicle for this. Comedy is another vehicle for this. As a huge fan of Joe Rogan, like you get into this room and you let this comedian guide your mind into these ideas, and you're laughing with everyone and you're getting this huge collective experience. But movement is just as powerful, and there's no unifying thread. There's a bunch of these separate things, but how can we bring people together simply just to move better, breathe better, get together, and reap the benefits of that? So it's been a lot of years of testing this idea in the fitness space, in the yoga space. I spent a lot of years managing a yoga studio and being part of the yoga community here in South Florida, still currently to this day, very active in the yoga community. A lot of my mentors I have are in the yoga space as well. Naya is one of my mentors. So being able to test this larger thing that isn't really fitness, but we've experimented in the fitness world, isn't really yoga, but we've experimented in that world. And we're starting to do even alternative social events where it's all levels, it's all ages. It's just something for people to come together, pick up a rope if you want to and learn some moves, kettlebells if you want to, but it's more so the community. It's more so seeing the people around you and letting that energy in the room, the inspiration of everything happening around you, to elevate you as well. And we're all our frequencies are resonating on each other. The constant struggle is just, if you haven't experienced that, it's pretty hard to explain that. I see you nodding your head and like you get it because you have such a background in yoga and martial arts and you get this experience. But me, back in sedentary lifestyle, if I heard me right now, I wouldn't know how to take it unless I experienced it. So I'm really creating a business for like my own skeptical past self, trying to wake that person up, because I do believe there's millions and millions of people like me from back then,
Absolutely. And I think all the things that you're doing is just getting you closer and closer to that wide spread acceptance of the power of movement, the power of breath. And it just starts with one, and you're making so many touches.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
then those touches are influencing those circles around you. So you don't even know how far your reach is, but I can tell you it's far. And I hope this conversation inspires even more people to just get into their bodies, connect with their breath just a little bit more. To conclude every episode, I finished with the final 3 questions, and we got to that point. The first one: through all the highs and lows that is this hero's journey, what do you feel has been your greatest life lesson learned on the path that you feel called in this moment after this conversation to share with us?
That you are more capable than you ever thought possible. And give yourself small wins to prove that. And then those wins will get bigger and bigger. You are capable of more than you know possible.
Oh, absolutely. That's beautiful. Next question. In 3 words, how would you describe the experience you were having on this earth? And this could be 3 separate words. And if you feel free to elaborate on these words, I'd love to hear. But in 3 words, how would you describe the experience you're having on this earth?
Synchronicity. 3 words. Synchronicity is one big one. I do believe that the universe, or whatever we call it, from whatever culture or part of the world, however we understand this thing that's bigger than us, I believe that it gives us messages, and those little small synchronicity, serendipitous moments are signs, if you choose to look at them that way. So as I do choose to look at it that way, they're happening more and more. So synchronicity is one big one. Growth, both for myself and as I give to empower, the growth of the community around us is another big one, which leads into community, I would say, is the third one. Growing up, I talked about my mom a lot, but my father also is someone I looked up to, and community was a big part of his life and still is today. He gave back so much to his hometown in Colombia. They treat him like a president when he goes there because of how much he gave back to the place that he loves so much and the community. And as we grow all of these ELVT products, community is a pivotal aspect of each and every one of them. Even our association with Atlas Fitness and Performance, which is a gym in downtown Delray, South Florida. You can find Georgie and I there all the time. our relationship with that company is as their brand officers and helping them cultivate the beautiful community that we have here in Delray Beach. And we have a location that treats movement with respect and with the true impact it can give people. And it's a communal space for people to come and learn new skills and learn about the benefits of sauna and cold plunge or kettlebells, steel mace, rope flow. And it's a space for us to learn together and to start using some of these cutting edge modalities that can help elevate how you breathe, move, and feel.
Mm-hmm. I love all those synchronicity, growth, and community. I have a question about community. For someone listening along who's really picked up on like this community vibe that has come through in so much that you spoke about, and they feel they don't have the community, what to do, right? Like it's easier to find community in a bigger city, like or a bigger area like South Florida or XYZ. But what if someone is from like a small town or a more conservative like place where everyone just works 9 to 5 jobs and lives that sedentary lifestyle? How does one cultivate community in those situations? Is it to pick up and leave, or yeah, what do you recommend?
That's a great question, man. I would say one of the quotes that I read growing into this new version of myself that really impacted me was, if you want to be interesting, ing, be more interested, ed, right? And technology is a double-edged sword. It is one of the main reasons why we have sedentary lifestyles, one of the bigger reasons, but at the same time, it gives us all the information at our disposal. And the communities that are online, I mean, I've been able to grow and cultivate so many skills and passions and side hobbies, thankful to YouTube and the internet and Instagram and some of these locations. Rope flow, I learned through YouTube. It took 2 years of learning online before I actually met David Weck in person. And I became part of that community probably a month and a half into my journey. So I felt like I knew David before I even met him, you know? So I would say yes, South Florida is a larger location, but even if you're in a smaller place, the online is a superpower if you use it for the right thing. Increase your awareness of how you breathe, move, and feel. The way you feel, a lot of it is how you spend your time. So maybe taking a small amount of time out of death scrolling whatever social platform you love and do a little research on something new. You know, I love videos about philosophy, Taoism, learning about some of like Miyamoto Musashi was an incredible samurai that his book, The Book of Five Rings, you can look up YouTube videos that teach really cool lessons. There's a lot of mentors in the yoga space or even in science in the quantum physics space. Joe Dispenza is a guy who writes a bunch of books, and there's a lot of videos that are free on YouTube that help you look at life in a different way. It just allows you to reframe and change your perspective. And as you become more interested, ED, in some of these things, you'll start having different conversations. You'll find yourself wanting to go to different locations in your locale, wherever you're from. And these new ideas and these new environments will introduce you to a new community. And I'm confident whatever that is, if you tap into this new passion or idea or energy and follow that path and have the explore mindset of elevate, that those synchronicities will happen. So maybe meeting someone in a community, whether it be online, in the comment section of a YouTube video, in a subreddit, or wherever it may be, that can turn into something really beautiful, you know? So I would say just be curious, be open-minded, and it's out there somewhere. And the computer allows that to be pretty close to our fingertips.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Final question. We played around with time. We examined your past. We've discussed the present. Let's travel to the future. Let's travel into the future. And we're going to be alongside an 85-year-old AJ Londo. Who is this 85-year-old man? Where are you? Who you're surrounded by? What is the legacy that you left in your 85 years? And what is the predominant feeling in your being?
I would say the predominant feeling is a feeling of content because we've been able to give to empower. And I envision an 85-year-old AJ in a beautiful garment with a huge beard, with his hands behind his back, like a kung fu master walking around a beautiful monastery that is just showcasing the impact that this system has had on humanity. I believe in the future, community will be a much bigger part of our communities. We will have spaces, that third space. You know, everybody has their home, their first space, their work, their second space. But that third space was something that was extremely pivotal and regular in villages and communities before the Industrial Revolution. But now, as things have gotten so huge, all of us feel like we don't have this connection or this community, and we're searching for one. So I believe that there is one there for all of us and a way for us to reach it. And in the future, we will have those spaces. It'll be regular, and we'll all be able to elevate how we breathe, move, and feel and get to a much more beautiful civilization.
I really see this. I just want you to take a moment to sit with this 85-year-old man for a moment. Maybe close your eyes, connect with your breath, and really feel into that deep sense of contentment, surrounded by community. You've spent your time here on earth giving to empower, and now you're just enjoying it all. And I'm going to bring us back. I'm going to bring us back to the present day. And that 85-year-old AJ, he sends you and everyone listening along a message. What does he share?
He liked my answer from before, and he said it one more time. You are more capable than you ever thought possible. So just keep moving forward, and we can get to that point, and an even wilder point than our dreams are showing us.
We're doing it. It's happening. And thank you so much for this conversation, AJ. For people wanting to connect with you, they can find you on Instagram at Flow with AJ. And if they want to check out the next adventure retreat, they can find that online at adventureretreat.co. Any words else to send them?
I think that's good, man. I just want to thank you so much too. You know, there are a certain amount of people out there right now who are on their path, who are doing their thing in a very interesting way. We've called it the way of the warrior. We've called it, you know, walking the path one with God, or that flow state, no, whatever it is. And you are one of those people, Derek, that is on the path. I knew that from the moment I met you. And we connected over martial arts and working with kids and yoga. And we had so many synergies. And to see what you've done with this show, you're doing the same thing. You know, my analogies and our branding is our way of doing the whatever this is. And to see you do it and be in your power is incredible, dude. So I just appreciate you too. I know it's not my job to do that. I'm not the host of the show, but I do want to appreciate everything you're doing. This is super important. And I just hope that this conversation is a pattern disrupt for the next person. And we just keep doing this moving forward. It's our purpose here on earth is to make it a better place for the generations to come.
Oh, thank you, brother. Much love. Thank you for that. And to close every conversation, we bring our fist in for a digital fist bump, a choice to step into the winner circle. Boom. Thank you, brother.
Let's go. Thank you very much.
Let's go. That's a wrap on today's call.